I went to Colombia just a couple of weeks ago on a very fast trip, just 4 days to the Putumayo to attend a meeting with an organization that is it's a union of 6 indigenous groups, curanderos from 6 indigenous groups and their apprentices in the Putumayo mostly, and they have done something that is very rare. It's very rare that you can get 30 shamans together for anything. It tends to be very individualistic, much less to actually work together. And this organization has been together like 10 years, longer. And I would very much like for them to be in the documentary. So I wrote an email and I asked about this, and they said, well, we can talk about it, but first of all, you're gonna have to come to our next meeting, and then you have to drink yaje, which is what they call ayahuasca. You have to drink yaje with us, as it is our custom, and then, under the guidance of the yaje, we'll decide how this will go. So I said, okay. Bought a ticket, took the planes. I came to the meeting. The yaje was supposed to be the last day of the meeting. I arrived the day before. And because they had to take a number of very important decisions just for the organization, they decided to put the drinking one night ahead. So that same day I arrived, I had to drink yaje with them. It was a big maloca, and all the hammocks were laid like this, parallel rows. And then there was one hammock that was like in the middle, like this, across, vertical, and then the others. And they said that's your hammock. Surrounded, where everybody could see me. Yeah, keep an eye on the white guy. And so it was. I mean, I've never been in a session with so many curanderos. I mean, there was basically 30 curanderos there, and their apprentices. They are all curanderos
from Colombia,
from 6 different indigenous groups in Colombia. Yeah. And that they were drinking to decide, on matters pertaining to the organization, and which is how they've been working. I mean, it's very much a part of the decision-making process. Is where all the decisions come from, etc. So they drank, and I didn't really know what to expect. They drank. Everybody went back to the hammocks, and then everybody fell quiet, and then it stayed quiet for like 2 hours, which was actually really gets hard. I mean, you want somebody to sing, somebody to, and there's just silence for 2 hours. You're alone with and everybody can hear you like do any sound, especially when you're in the middle. So
anything specifically going through your mind at that time?
Well, what ayahuasca does, my own issues, my own problems, things that I was working through. All of this came. And then I was thinking about many things, so there was a fair amount of on my part, and then until I realized everybody could hear me do this, and they could tell that I was having a not so easy time. So then I was like quiet, but I mean I couldn't. It felt like nothing was. And then slowly people began to line up for a second drink, and then they began to talk among themselves, and then they began to make jokes, and then they began to laugh. And this was really strange because it was very cooperative. Like one person would say something, everybody would laugh, and then another person here would pick it up and add a line, and everybody would laugh again, and somebody would repeat and laugh. And they were all just waiting for somebody to say the next funny thing, so they all could laugh, and they were all just laughing. It was very nice. I've never been in an ayahuasca session where people crack jokes for an hour.
Just general jokes?
Yeah, or? Just like everything from there was a number of mother-in-law stories which got lots of laughter, and then all sorts of foolery and nonsense. I mean, just jokes. It was very lighthearted. I mean, they were really picking on people, or they just kept laughing and laughing and laughing. It was very infectious, very fun. And then the actual healing began. At some point, one of the guys said, okay, enough, and he had his helper bring out his feather crown, which he put on, grab the thing, and the third person line up, and then the healings began. But there were guys from 6 different groups, and they were all healing at the same time. So at any given point, there was like 6 people singing at the same time, different songs, 2 harmonicas playing different songs, and people talking. So it was like the room was just full of, it was very. But the thing is, if you could just you could concentrate on any one thing, and they were all good. The one harmonica or the other, or this singing or that singing. I would just pay attention. I began to pay attention to something singing that was right behind me. That was really. You could really hear that guy was improvising, and he was very much bringing out what he was going through. I mean, you could actually hearing him, you knew what was happening. I don't know how to explain it. It was very.
It had a free kind of freedom.
Totally,
to it.
totally free flowing and very expressive. Yes. So I turned like this to look, and he was healing one of his apprentices, which was a guy sitting like this, shirtless, and the other guy was sitting on his hammock working. And he was doing this. Well, it was very different from Peruvian. I mean, I'd come to think by mistake that this sort of tobacco blowing was sort of a universal, that you could find all across the Amazon. But I was completely wrong. It seems like it's a Peruvian phenomenon, and that's it. Well, certainly in the Quitos area, and all the way up here, you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
But not in Colombia. They smoke cigarettes. But they don't.
Yeah.
But they're like filter cigarettes, and they don't use tobacco to blow on people during the. So the way here in Peru, the way they cure you is with tobacco and with blowing tobacco, and over there they just sort of pick things up. They just run your hand and grab something, and then or they sometimes. In this case, this guy, because he was working with an apprentice of his, he was sort of swallowing it. He was sort of like running his hand through the back, and then and then you could see he was and like sit still for a second, just trying to decide whether he had actually processed that or not. He just go and then okay, and continue. It was, and again when there's this guy in full regalia with the feathers, the jaguar teeth necklace.
Right. All men?
It was
all
all men. The women were kept separate in a different section of the maloca in the back. It was very beautiful. It was very beautiful to watch, just to watch what he was doing, just to watch one person doing this thing to another person, to watch a person. So and there was something very gentle in the way he was picking things up, and very nice. And I began to get really jealous. So when he was done, I sat next to him, and I said, well, I don't know what the protocol is like over here. I don't know if this is maybe I'm overstepping my boundaries. I don't know if I can ask this question, but if that's okay with you, I would like to maybe get
some of that, please, because it looks good.
I was looking at you, and it looked so good, and I thought like maybe.